Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. It is a Wednesday edition of the show, our third episode of the week, but the second Bucs mini camp practice that we were in attendance for, and it was just as exciting as the first day, and we got to speak to a whole new cast of characters, including Baker Mayfield, Levante David, and Yaya Diaby. So we're going to break down everything from practice, what we saw, talk about some of the press conferences as well. And we got a trio of people on the show today because we are enjoying practice so much. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me are my fellow co-hosts, the face that runs the place, SR Scott Reynolds, and Adam Slavon coming on a day early for a Wednesday edition. Gentlemen, good to see you again. How are we doing?
Good. It was a little hot today.
It was hotter than yesterday.
Yeah. Those clouds were not as prevalent as they were on Tuesday, and the breeze was not as gusty as it was either. So a little bit more of a Florida feel to this practice, and one of the things that really stood out to me, and we saw the 11-on-11 towards the end, but man, Todd Bowles, Thomas McGahee, they spent a lot of time. I mean, it was so much time that practice period did not even have a clock on it. It seemed like 20-25 minutes they spent practicing the new kick return and the new kick coverage rules and getting those things into place. And we saw Bucky Irving today as one of the kick return specialists. You can see there Thomas McGahee looking on in the background there.
Yeah.
A whole slew of players were doing kick returns, including even the cover guy today. Jordan Whitehead was back there doing kick returns. That's right. So we saw Rachaad White fielding some kick returns because they practiced it again yesterday. And there he was getting tackled by Logan Hall on kick returns. But this is going to be a real big point of emphasis. Todd Bowles kind of said, well, we'll have to take a look at it and we'll see. It's one of those things that you can kind of practice it, but you really have to have the pads on to see who can get the blocks, who can break the tackles, et cetera. This is going to be a bit of a game changer for the Buccaneers. And they are, like all the other 31 NFL teams, trying to figure the best way to attack and defend this new play.
Yeah, I'm curious what position is probably most likely going to benefit the most, specifically for the Bucs at this position. Because, you could say wide receiver. Jalen McMillan obviously has a lot of speed. This is an opportunity for someone like even Rakim Jarrett or Trey Palmer for sure once he gets healthy. But then also it's like, well, reading the holes, maybe this is best suited for Bucky Irving, because if Rachaad White's going to be RB1 and there's yet to be an established order of how the Bucs are going to rotate their running backs, and Rachaad White talked about a 1-2 punch with him and Bucky Irving, but we don't necessarily know that. That's what Rachaad White is kind of hoping for, even though he would probably hope just to be the starting guy. Yeah. But it feels like it's either going to be a wide receiver or a running back. As much as I did enjoy watching Jordan Whitehead return some kicks and punts, he's going to be more of the role of emergency running back if the Bucs ever get to that.
Yeah, and he was a running back and a safety at Pitt, so he does have some experience as a running back in college. But I agree with you, Matt. It's going to be, you don't want your starting strong safety back there fielding kicks and doing all that and subjecting him to injury with all the tacklers coming on.
And it kind of feels like whoever isn't the wide receiver 3, whether that's Jalen McMillan or Trey Palmer, they've had a lot of work back there throughout OTAs and minicamp fielding kicks. But it'll be really interesting to see Bucky Irving and just his elusiveness out there, seeing him running back kicks like throughout training camp next month.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, again, this is an offensive and defensive play more than it is a special teams play. And so it's going to be interesting to see. It used to be, well, you took all your backup players and put them on special teams because you want your starters to get hurt. But this is a play that I think with the NFL talent, you didn't necessarily see it as much with the XFL, the UFL, and all that, but this is a play that could really produce some touchdowns, right? And so you're going to want some of your better players out there, I think, your better tacklers out there to ensure that you don't all of a sudden, give up a play that in years past got to the 25-yard line, the 30. Ooh, you had a big return out to the 40-yard line. Yeah. I mean, this could be a play that if you hit the hole, you could get to the 30-yard line of the other team, right? Or maybe take it to the house. So you're talking about a game-changing, field-flipping type play here that if you don't defend it properly, and at the same time, if you don't return it properly too, I mean, you can get yourself backed up there pretty quickly if you don't have the right blockers out there. So it used to be a thing where the back 7-8 guys on your roster would comprise special teams, and I'm not saying that's not going to be the case, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit more starters sprinkled in, especially on the defensive side, to help get down there and cover.
And I know the preseason is typically mundane. You don't see a lot of starters and things of that nature. But this new special teams rule is a nice little wrinkle of a point of interest for special teams this year. Because I think one of the biggest questions is, one, how do you go about it? But what's the first adjustment that's going to be made with these special teams moves and workings of it? Because like anything else, you could be a great running team, and then all of a sudden teams say, we're going to stack the box and stop you from running. Well, then you got to adjust and start passing it more, or, go different directions and things like that. So I wonder, for a team, like if they get burned on one coverage, why wouldn't they just kick it for a touchback like the rest of the time and not worry about defending that?
But you have to have a good defense, because now you're starting at the 30 and all of a sudden.
Well, that too. What type of sacrifice do you make with that?
Right.
And then also, because you have to kick it a certain distance and it's going to land in the return zone. The Bucs have obviously put a lot of emphasis on their kickoffs with going with, Jake Camarda and previously Bradley Pinion as their kickoff guys, even though they were punters. I'm curious around the league if they're still going to have their regular field goal kicker also do kickoffs, or if some teams will look at their punter a little bit more, or if some kickers will just be a kickoff specialist. Teams do that every now and then, not obviously all the time. But I'm most curious about all the little adjustments that we may see after the initial, okay, this is working, this isn't working, and this is how we're going to get the better of our opponent.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're starting things off hot, folks, with some special teams talk, because it's interesting. This isn't just your boring special teams third phase of the game conversation. This is going to be an exciting play that I think is going to really help the NFL. We've seen a lot of rule changes that I think diminish the product on the field. I think this is actually one that has taken that essentially dead play after field goals, touchdowns, all that stuff, opening kickoffs where it's a touchback and it's just kind of a waste and all that stuff. But now it's an exciting play. But we also have got an exciting $5 super chat here from Mike Wells. Great start to the show, guys. What do you think Yaya's ceiling is this season? He is looking jacked. And Sly, we had a chance to see Yaya Diaby today up close and in person. And this is a guy that was looking jacked and was not shy about showing off the guns and talking about his weight room work this offseason.
Yeah, and he also refuted reports. Rachaad White yesterday claimed that he was built in a lab. Yaya clarified today that, in fact, he was not made in a lab, but he's just been working on building his guns every day in the facility, even on Sunday when the weight room's closed. He's pulling on that door, let me in, let me in. But with Yaya Diaby, I think going into this season, really the sky's the limit for this guy. I mean, he came like hot down the stretch. He didn't start a game until week 11, finished with 7.5 sacks, led the team. I think a realistic goal this year is double-digit sacks for him, especially as he gets more refined with his movements. He mentioned today he one of his biggest focuses was hand placement and working on even getting faster along the edge. I mean, the guy runs a 4.51, but he's really athletic, really strong, and I just see him really being able to take those tools and implement them and have better results this year.
And Matt, he was saying he really works on third down. That's really where he's concentrating, right? Is is that's been one of those things that's been talked about this offseason from a defensive standpoint, is getting better on third downs. And you know what, Matt? If you're going to be that guy, if you're going to be the leading sacker, you got to show up on third down. That's the money down.
Damn it, Scott. I was about to say, third down is the money down.
Yeah.
If you want to make your name as an edge rusher in this league, there's nothing wrong. There's no shame in getting a sack on first down or second down if the play warrants itself. But big-time players, big-time plays all happen on third down. You look at some of the best pass rushers in the league right now, the best pass rushers in the history of the NFL. You were worried about, oh, no, we're in third and passing situation. Here comes Reggie White, Michael Strahan, J.J. Watt, now T.J. Watt, and, Myles Garrett. The list goes on and on and on. Yaya Diaby wants to be in that category, in that discussion. I remember when we had Yaya Diaby on. We've had him on several times, but the most recent time when Will Golston was on as well. And Yaya talked about all the film that he watched. And he was watching guys like Myles Garrett to just see what he can do. And speaking of the size of Yaya Diaby, there is one thing that concerns me a little bit for Yaya going to this season is when the Bucs have road games, he's going to get stopped at every single airport that he goes to because he's got some weapons on his biceps with what he's got going on. And Adam was just talking about how Yaya wants to go on Sundays, but he can't because the Bucs are locking him out, really everybody out. It's closed on Sunday. But we gave Cody Mauch a ton of credit, and this is no knock on Cody Mauch for, how he looked at OTAs and the work he put in this offseason. And Yaya Diaby just blew that out of the water. And again, it's no shame on Cody Mauch. Right. It's just insane how Yaya Diaby looks. Let's get to Meets McGee's Super Chat in just a moment, but Yaya talked about all the work that he's putting in.
Yeah. Yesterday, Rashad White said he thinks you were built in a lab. So can you confirm that you were not, in fact, built in a lab?
No, I wasn't built in a lab, but I just work hard to get these guns. That's all it is.
What are you doing?
Well, I'm here every day. They lock the weight rooms on Sundays, so I can't get in there on Sundays. So
you gotta go to EOS down the street.
So that sucks. So I gotta find other ways to get a pump in. But I'm just trying to build more body mass and just more muscle. Lose some fat and gain more muscle.
I didn't even know Yaya can put. I didn't even know he can put on more mass. But I think it's a bigger story too. No pun intended to the size of Yaya Diaby. But that's another thing that makes the greats so special is that they love this. They crave this. That's all they're thinking about 24/7. And Yaya, it very much feels that way. There's another quick video of just Yaya talking about what he's working on specifically when it comes to getting better on pass rushing, which, again, third down, the money down will really pay off. And Yaya also had a sack today, would-be sack in minicamp, so seeing early results.
For me, it was just like little things like hand placement. Like a lot of time I caught myself when I was watching film, I was high. I played high, so I've been, keying in on, playing low and having good hand placement.
And thanks to Meets McGee for this $5 super chat. It says, "Cheerio, my good fellows. Yaya lied to us about not adding more size and doing Pilates." He did post some videos about him and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka working out together. So the Pilates are still in the mix, but clearly he's working on literally everything, it feels like.
Yeah, and I think too when he's talking about getting low, it's he's kind of a high cut guy at 6'3". He does have some long legs, and it's bending those knees. It's getting the leverage going, and it's not playing as high as as he did last year. And you mentioned Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. I mean, this guy's no stranger to the weight room either. I mean, he looks like he is ready to attack this contract year, right? The Bucs did not pick up his fifth-year option, so this is a contract year for him. This is year 4, and right now he's running with the starters. He and Yaya Diaby are the starters, and then I think, and it's early. There's no official depth chart right now, but what we've seen, then you see Anthony Nelson, the experienced guy, the most experienced guy on the field right now. Randy Gregory's still a no-show,
MIA, yeah,
MIA, and And then you got Nelson and Chris Braswell coming in with the second wave. So right now, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka kind of in the pole position, and we'll see. I wouldn't count out Marquise Watts, who has looked dynamite this offseason as well, or Chris Braswell. And I think this team is itching to see him in pads. So, we talked about it today, guys. Sly, there's not – it's not like anyone's missing Randy Gregory, right? I mean,
Right.
there's enough talent on the field. And Jose Ramirez got some love today from Yaya about his development. And we've heard Brian – or I should say Jason Light and Todd Bowles talk about Jose Ramirez this offseason, and we've seen how cut he looks. He looks like a completely different player. So when you do the quick math, Yaya Diaby, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, Anthony Nelson, Chris Braswell, Marquise Watts, there's 5, and then Jose Ramirez is 6. Then if Randy Gregory decides he wants to play football, that's 7. That's a lot of guys. You're probably only going to keep 5. So I don't know. I think there's enough talent here. I really do.
Yeah, with all those names you mentioned, you almost kind of forget that the team did sign Randy Gregory, especially when you look at the guys that have been out there throughout minicamp. The picture you had of Yaya and Marquise Watts, those could very much be the top 2 edge rushers for the Bucs this year. Yaya was very complimentary of Marquise Watts and just saying that he's looked really good. He's been awesome out there, super bendy. He's a smaller guy, but he kind of uses that to his advantage. And so last year he had the highest pass rush win rate of all the pass rushers on the Bucs.
Yeah.
And if he takes that in a larger sample size, he could really be dynamic and kind of be that third down pass rushing specialist. And then you have JTS that you mentioned in a contract year, and also really excited for Chris Braswell, who the team signed this afternoon. In fact, the 2nd round pick. I know you did a Pewter Pulse on it. He really is a physical guy. And that's what Todd Bowles said today. He's a physical player that will look even better when the pads come on. So with all those guys, you have Jose Ramirez maybe competing for that last spot. It's not essential that Randy Gregory comes back. And Todd Bowles, he's focused on coaching the players that he has. But even if Gregory does come back, like how much of a shot does he have to make the team?
Yeah, it really feels like if you're going to have Yaya starting on one side, which I think we're all in favor of, it's really going to be Yaya starting on one side, and then it's going to be outside linebacker by committee on the other, where I don't necessarily think it's just going to be JTS starting every single game. It might be JTS, and then it might be Braswell one day, and there's going to be a great rotation on outside linebacker. And sometimes you hear by committee. You don't necessarily love that. I know it's a baseball term when they say bullpen by committee, and it's not always what you want to hear. But for this, it legitimately feels like a good plan to have that outside linebacker by committee because we've already heard Sterling Shepard the other day. Baker mentioned it today. The weather in Tampa wears everybody down. We saw a lot of players getting, taken off to the sideline today because of the heat that's going on. It's not even just having a guy or two that's fresh. The whole outside linebacker room is going to be fresh, especially the way that the Bucs have rotated their guys. Yeah. It's going to be Yaya and the Diabys. The other outside linebackers are the Diabys, and it's Yaya on one side.
You mentioned rotation, and it's like, I got to make my 2 cents known to Todd Bowles. I got to have a conversation with Todd and say, listen, I whether it's Casey Rogers, whoever's doing the defensive line rotations, I just don't get it, right? Because we'll see they'll do a pitch count platoon, which means you might have the first 5 plays, right? So if the first 5 plays are first down, second down, third down, you stay on the field, you get first and second down, and then the next wave comes in on third down, right? And they do different pitch counts based upon the weather and the conditioning, and is it first quarter or fourth quarter, et cetera. But I don't like that. I mean, it goes against what I kind of grew up with when I played football, and even when I coached it. It's I want the best run stuffers in there on first down, which is more than likely going to be a pat or a run down, than say 3rd and 10. That's going to most likely be a pass down. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having a guy go in for 1 third down, and then if they convert, then you send him off and you put the first down guys back on. I think you play to players' strengths.
Right.
And if you have a guy like Marquise Watts who has a 23% pass rush win rate, I want him out there, not Anthony Nelson on 3rd and 7, you know?
Right. But that's what I'm trying to say, though. Like, even you can do a rotation, but rotate it to the strengths. Like, if Marquise Watts is only playing on 3rd down, he's still going to be fresh to go on 3rd down because he's not playing on 1st and 2nd down. Or if it's a 3rd and 2, you're probably still not going to have Marquise Watts on. You would almost want Anthony Nelson in that situation because there's still more of a running opportunity for the offense. So it's a rotation, but it's being smart about the rotation. It's not just, you know what? Because they've done this in the past. You know what? Let's just throw out Anthony Nelson and Joe Tryanchenko for the next series. And then they drive all the way down the field.
That's what they do, and it drives me nuts.
Well, if JTS was taken off when the Falcons were at midfield and Yaya was back on or whoever was back on, you get the sack, you get the stop there. So I totally hear your point, and what I probably should have expanded on more is the fact that you can keep guys fresh, rotate it in not just it's not like a hockey shift. Like, okay, you're on for the next minute and a half, and then we'll go to completely new people. Just hey, you're on for a play, and then you're back out because that keeps you more in tune into the game than anything else. Like, I just played 15 snaps, I'm good for a while. I'm not going to play until the 3rd quarter after that.
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. Mike Wells here with another super chat. Thanks so much on this.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate it. One more for you guys. Haha. What are your expectations for Cade Otton in the new offense? I feel he's still got some untapped potential. Yeah, I actually asked Baker Mayfield about Cade Otton today, and those two kind of clicked really towards the end of the season. Certainly in the postseason, Cade Otton actually had more catches than any Buccaneer in those 2 postseason games. Had a touchdown against the Lions, 8 catches for 89 yards against the Philadelphia Eagles in that win. And one of the things that Baker said that made perfect sense was, well, when you see teams adjust to Mike and Chris over the second half of the season, Cade just was open, by kind of by default, right? Because so much attention is given to those 2 star receivers that he's going to be open because he's not the focal point. Teams are not game planning to stop Cade Otton. And with more repetitions, more experience, we saw a better version of Cade Otton, more yards after catch, some deeper catches, 20, 30 yards, etc., and more touchdowns too. That touchdown against the Falcons might have been the biggest touchdown of the season. If they don't win that game, Atlanta probably wins the division this year, or I should say last year. And the Buccaneers don't make the playoffs, and there could be regime change and all that stuff. That was a huge touchdown catch at the end of that game in Atlanta that helped continue the Buccaneers' hot streak down the end of the season, Sly.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Cade Otton, so far he's looked to be a more polished tight end entering year 3. You kind of saw that yesterday when he really was the offensive MVP of minicamp and just being a really smooth route runner. But I thought that another question that you asked that was interesting to Baker was, is this the best set of weapons that he's had in his career so far? And when you look at it, it really works to Otton's advantage when you have Mike, Chris, McMillan, Palmer, Rachaad White, and Bucky out of the backfield.
Yeah.
With all those options that defenses have to game plan for, it really kind of opens the middle of the field for a guy like Cade Otton, especially if he really works on creating separation, running routes, and 11 personnel sets when all the focus is going to be on the 3 wide receivers and potentially Rachaad White. It leaves a lot of space for Cade Otton to make an impact.
Yeah, I don't think overall, I think Cade Otton is in a better situation by playing less, and that's not a knock on him underperforming. It's just the guy's got to be exhausted by the amount that he's played, and there's also nothing wrong with being honestly like the 4th or 5th fiddle on this team specifically. That's when there is Mike and Chris and everybody that Adam rattled off. So, if you were to look at the box score, I don't think week in and week out you're going to see Cade Otton. I've had Cade Otton on my fantasy teams before, and I'm not going that route again because he's not going to be the focal point of the offense.
But you can't count on him on a week in, week out basis.
But to your point, Scott, it is available. The 80+ reception game against the Eagles in the playoffs. Cade Otton is capable of that. We've seen Cade Otton be clutch in his first 2 seasons.
That's right.
Scoring game winners with Tom Brady, and then scoring game winners with Baker Mayfield last season. So I think Cade Otton's role should and I don't mean this as a disrespectful way, but kind of be the forgotten man in the offense where everyone else is covered. Bam, Cade Otton, 15 yards, first down, and then be that dude in the red zone. Mike's going to get his targets in the red zone, and he should lead the Buccaneers in touchdowns.
And he's going to get attention, too. He's going to get double.
Because he's going to get the attention. Yeah. But Cade Otton, the number one thing he should be working on this training camp when it comes through, obviously get better at blocking, but also make those tough catches in traffic over the middle, because when you're in the red zone, when you're at the goal line, it's all congested. There's tons of bodies everywhere. But that's where Cade Otton could make a big difference. That's where Payne Durham, when the Bucs drafted him, it was, hey, he's a pretty good guy in the red zone. So I think there's a great opportunity for these Bucs tight ends to be more than just, they can be the forgotten man, but also not be afterthoughts at the same time. And the arsenal of weapons question, we actually got that on video. So let's go to Baker Mayfield talking about all of the weapons that he has at his disposal with the Bucs.
Is this as well stocked an arsenal that you've had at any stop in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, it's anytime you get that much familiarity and chemistry with the same guys, you're going to get better too. But it also helps when they're that damn good as a skill group. So for me, yeah, it's up there. But you know, talent can only take you so far. That's why we're working our tails off right now to get this whole thing down and get on the same page. But yeah, it's definitely a great group to be surrounded by. And obviously, yeah, offensive line too, having some of those same guys, some new additions, and it's just right now it's a really good feel of how everybody works and works together.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Baker Mayfield last year, had a very successful season. Obviously, he went to the Pro Bowl, was the Pro Bowl MVP, 4,000 yards, which was a career high, and 28 touchdowns, also a career high. And that was with Mike and Chris and Cade and Rashad, and a little bit of Trey Palmer sprinkled in. Now Baker Mayfield has all of those guys back, plus Bucky Irving, Jalen McMillan.
And hopefully a running game.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not the one-dimensional attack that we've seen before, right? And maybe a Sterling Shepard, and just, you know, a deeper group of players. Payne Durham, who's gotten a lot of buzz behind the scenes and has actually looked pretty good for the days that we've seen out there. So it's just, this is a pretty stocked offensive arsenal for Baker to work with. And I think it's deeper now than it certainly was last year. And, you know, Devin Culp, we haven't even talked about him. And, you know, that's another player in the mix. O'Keefe better get healthy soon. Probably not, you know, the best time to be out the entire offseason when you have a new offensive coordinator, a new tight ends coach. You're not able to make an impression. And, you know, it's no knock on Co, but you can't help when other guys that are healthy, that are out there catching passes, running routes, et cetera, they're making an impression, right? So there's that too. And, you know, Raheem Jarrett had a day today, and we would be remiss if we didn't say that the Pop-Tart left in the toaster today was Bryce Hall. He was getting cooked, toasted big time today. Raheem Jarrett, Jalen McMillan,
Ryan Miller.
Yeah, Ryan Miller had a day today, and so not the best of days for Bryce Hall. You know, that might be him saying, "Hey, I want out. You know, tag me out."
All right, I'm head out.
But you know, and listen, we've seen players have bad practices and bounce back. So I'm not trying to besmirch Bryce Hall by any means. I just had a rough day at the office. Zion McCollum didn't finish practice today. Had some hydration issues.
Tough for the corners today. And Jamel Dean didn't even practice. So
correct. Jamel Dean was out again. And the good news from what Todd Bowles said was, everybody should be ready to go. I think O'Keefe is coming off of an off-season surgery, but he's kind of getting close to coming back. So he might be the only player that may not start training camp. And it sounded like Bowles was optimistic he would. So this is a team that's just about at full strength when it comes to their health. And they ended the season healthy. They've had a very healthy offseason. So usually if you're looking for something that just derails teams, it's injuries. And knock on wood, this Buccaneer team was very healthy last year. Only two prominent players on season-long injury reserve. Ryan Jensen with the failed comeback from that knee injury. Russell Gage went down up in New York during the joint practices with the Jets. Yeah. Other than that, the guys that were on injury reserve, it was the short-term injury reserve. They were able to come back. Chase Edmonds, Mike Green, Raheem Jarrett. Those are the only guys. I mean, Kalijah Cansey missed 4 games. Probably should have gone on IR, but he came back and was pretty healthy. So far, so good. Bobby Slater and that training staff, they're doing a very good job keeping this Buccaneer team healthy this offseason.
Yeah, and just kind of wanted to circle back on your point when you were talking about like some of the offensive weapons. That's not even to mention the offensive line. And I think an underrated aspect heading into this season, like you mentioned, all the players remaining healthy, but you look at the offensive line, everybody's kind of staying put.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like moving parts with Tristan Wirfs, Gedeke, and Cody Mauch, like switching sides from where they're used to.
Yeah.
And another guy last year was Matt Filer when he got benched for Aaron Stinney.
Yeah.
When you look at the left guard position this year, the team is hopeful that there's an upgrade at that spot, whether whoever ends up lining up there. And then also at the center position, if Graham Barton's there, being an upgrade over Robert Hainsey.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at all the weapons, and then with an improved offensive line, Baker settled in. There's a lot to like about the offense.
Yeah, and speaking of center and guard, Matt, what we've seen, and again, no depth chart. This is just our observations and nothing set in stone. But in yesterday's minicamp practice, we saw Ben Bredesen and Ben Bredesen and Graham Barton as the left guard and center. And then today it was Sua Opeta and Robert Hainsey as the starting left guard and center. So they're kind of rotating those players in there. But Cody Mauch seems entrenched at right guard. We haven't seen him on the move, which was good because there was some talk maybe, they move him to the left side. I say keep him and Luke Gedeke, the mustached wonder, on that side of the ball, because I think they really kind of came on in terms of their chemistry last year, Matt.
Yeah, that can't be overlooked. And I get adjustments have to be made, and if something isn't working, you got to try something else. But then there's also the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And when you got something cooking on that right side of the offensive line with 2 guys that enjoy playing next to each other, 2 guys, Gedeke in particular, that, I mean, Mauch was a rookie, but Gedeke took a huge, gigantic step forward. If you got that covered, and you got Tristan covered at left tackle once the whole contract thing gets situated, why not just have one less headache to worry about and just deal with, center and left guard. And the Bucs have talked over and over and over about cross-training guys, having guys play at different positions. There's been a lot of conversation this year because of the Liam Cohen offense about having high IQ guys. Everybody has to know the offense because there's going to be 2 or 3 plays called at one time. I think that goes into the offensive line as well, which drafting someone like Graham Barton, who you can trust as a rookie to get the job done at center, but then also look into what he has to do if they want to move him to offensive guard as well. So, Baker Mayfield mentioned that the Duke guys tend to have a pretty good education and everything like that. But it's good to have the rotation, very much like it's great to have the rotation of Celsius energy drinks that you can go and get anywhere in the continental U.S.
It's an epic transition, Matt, right?
Thank you very much. Of course, we always like to keep the vibes high on the show. Even in this scorching hot weather, the vibes were high, and we're bringing it into the show as well, just like Celsius has the great vibe flavors of the Cosmic, Astro, and Galaxy. I love the Arctic vibe. Tropical vibe is great, too. There's no sugar. It's a great way to start your day as well. If you want to substitute coffee with the Celsius, gives you that energy to get you going throughout the day. If you need to know where to find a Celsius energy drink, go to the Celsius store locator on their website, punch in your address, and tell you the closest location where you can pick one up. Could be a Walmart, a health and fitness store, or, gentlemen, it could be your bodega. Bodega. And once you go into your bodega and you love it and you want to buy it in bulk, you can buy it in bulk over on Amazon. Do that, subscribe, and save. Get that variety pack because there's so many awesome flavors. And variety is the spice of life, so you can have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. You're in charge. You're the captain. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of Pewter Report. Pewterreport.com. We got a couple of super chats to get to.
Yeah, I just wanted to
well.
just to kind of comment here too. If you're wondering who 67 is, right? Did somebody take Luke Gedicke's number? No, that's Luke Gedicke. He's got quite the new look this year. Looks more like Dan Dierdorf if you're an old school football guy like myself. Gone is the buzz cut flat top, and he is growing his hair out. I wonder how long he's going to grow his hair. But he's also grown a mustache as well. And Sly, any take on Luke Gedicke's new look here?
Yeah, so I'm definitely a fan of the mustache. And
Okay.
I think in general, looking at his appearance, it's definitely going to be something that we're going to monitor next month throughout training camp to see like what stylistic changes he does over the 6-week period. But definitely a fan, improved look.
Okay.
He really
Improved
looks
look.
like that Wisconsin farmer.
Yeah,
Adam,
I mean, that was the previous look there. That was the first 2 years look of Luke Gedicke, and again, gone is the buzz cut, and the beard, and he's got just the mustache going.
Adam, let me ask you: are you a fan of the more noticeable mustache for Luke Gedicke? Because if he eats at Culver's, some sauce drips down, and he can have a little extra more of that Culver's sauce on the mustache.
Oh, definitely. That's part of going to Culver's is getting that little bit of sauce on the mustache there. And if he gets that endorsement deal from him, hey.
Yeah. Not many people got it better than Luke Gedicke at the moment. He's soaring in the correct direction in his career, which is very nice. Let's get to these super chats. Thanks to Mark Allstott for the $1.99 super chat. Going back to our discussion a little bit before about the rotation at outside linebacker. Says, agree 100% about the D-line rotation, SR. Yeah, I mean, we don't need to rehash everything about the outside linebacker, but curious what Tampa Bay will do in the event that Logan Hall doesn't pan out. Because you got Vita, you got Kalijah Cansey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, like, how they would go about that rotation. Because you got Will Golson in there. Greg Gaines is back, but he's more of a nose tackle.
Yeah.
The chips are a little bit on Logan Hall, but
we've seen Todd Bowles. Remember when JPP was here, Jason Pierre-Paul, we would see him rush inside on those nickel downs. So I wouldn't be surprised, if Logan Hall doesn't pan out, if they have, if something happens to say Kalijah Cansey again, I wouldn't be surprised to see Yaya Diaby come inside, or even Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. JTS played a lot of nickel rush in that. Whether it's A gap, B gap, over the guard, etc. So they've got some options there. And we know Todd Bowles loves to tinker, especially with those pressure packages. So it could be a situation where you just put Vita Vea out there and you got 4 or 5 outside linebackers. And maybe it's an amoeba front where they just all stand up and then come from different angles. We've seen Todd Bowles get pretty creative, and we've seen Vita Vea rush as a blitzing linebacker before. We've seen JTS with his hand on the ground, almost as a nose tackle in 3rd and long. So we'll see.
Scott, that's like a really great point about Yaya Diaby. If Logan Hall doesn't pan out, putting him up front along the defensive line with Vea and Cansey, and then maybe having like Marquise Watts and Chris Braswell as the outside linebackers. If you look at that, I feel like that's a really hard front to beat.
That's an interesting pressure package, no doubt, for sure. Yeah.
Thanks to Josh Ortiz for this $4.99 super chat, and a really interesting question. What kind of defense is Dave Canales likely to throw at Baker Mayfield, knowing his strengths, weaknesses, and protection around him? Tuning in from rehab, wish me luck.
Yeah, that's interesting because Baker Mayfield, if you go back to that Week 18 game at Carolina, was the beneficiary of 3 potential dropped interceptions by Panthers players. I think 2 of which were linebackers. Maybe Frankie Louvu was one of those guys. I would just, if I'm Dave Canales, how I beat Baker Mayfield is I just give maybe 2 or 3 cans of Celsius to their big defensive tackle, Derek Brown, and just say, be the man today, right? Because the biggest thing that you can do to disrupt any quarterback is pressure in the face, in the A gap, defensive tackles. And that's why we've seen a premium, whether it's a player like Derek Brown getting handsomely paid, or whether it's, Chris Jones in Kansas City being the highest paid defensive tackle, even at age 30. There's a premium. That's still, going back to my generation with Warren Sapp and John Randall and all those great defensive tackles. You're the closest guy to the ball on the defensive side. And when the ball is snapped, you're still the closest guy because that quarterback's right behind the center. And if you can have an impact player, and I think that's why Jason Light and Todd Bowles have thrown resources at the defensive tackle position. A first-round pick in Vita Vea, even before Bowles got there in 2018. A first-round pick in Kalijah Kancey. The first overall pick by the Buccaneers, which was at the top of the second round, in Logan Hall. And guys, they were going to do it again this year if Graham Barton had not been on the clock when Tampa Bay selected the first round. They were going to draft Johnny Newton out of Illinois. So it's a premium spot, and it's a position that you want to have stud players and that doesn't have to be a defensive tackle. That position can be manned, as you were saying, Sly, with Yaya Diaby, JTS, whatever, and some of those pressure packages, just to get after the quarterback.
First of all, Josh, if you are in rehab, very good luck to you. But to answer this, see, part of it is we got to remember, like, Baker isn't running Canales' offense anymore.
Right.
Because my initial thought is like, well, what were some of the biggest issues for Baker? He gets balls batted down a lot. So you immediately think pressure on the inside, because one, it's going to make Baker have to get rid of it quickly, but also he's probably going to have to throw it over the middle. So you're looking at those interior guys.
Right.
And also what we talked about, how the offensive line, you're not going to want to put your best against Tristan Wirfs, and Gedeke is getting into that category. So for me, it's you got to get the pressure up front. If you want to keep blitzing, that's fine, because Baker does sometimes run into that issue of wanting to extend the play too much. If he has to throw it quickly, you're ready to bat it down. But the reason why you got to remember this isn't Canales' offense anymore, because I would also suggest in these certain type of plays, we've seen the Bucs fall into issues last year where if Mike Evans isn't crazy involved in the game, the Bucs ran into issues. And so I would obviously try to take Mike out with double teams and bracket coverage. And you feel good about going up against Godwin one-on-one if he's outside. But now he's in the slot, so that's different. That's one of the adjustments you'll see this year. So normally I would say, blitz through the middle, try to get pressure through the middle, put your hands up because you're going to knock down a ball or two. I try to double Mike, and then, obviously keep an eye on Rashad because Rashad White was such a factor. And then you try to fight those other ways. But now with Godwin in the slot, that kind of takes away one of the things that Canales may attempt to go for, or at least, whisper into the ear of his defensive coordinator. So, that's where we'll really see one of the biggest differences with Liam Cohen. And then obviously if they're able to run the ball even a little bit, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking a little bit less of Baker if the running game is going well, because Baker does struggle with the deep ball here and there. So I think the running game really is the biggest factor of this whole offense.
Yeah, and I think you make some great points, Matt, and just kind of adding to it and mentioning that question and talking about how Canales will game plan against Baker. It really starts with kind of Greg Cosell mentioned it earlier in the offseason with the depth of the pocket. And Baker kind of struggled last year when the pressure was coming to him. You'll get games like the 49ers or even the Colts game kind of comes to mind when there's a dominant front there or a dominant player. It's really hard for Baker to kind of conduct and game manage the offense. So kind of building on that, when you mentioned if the running game is more successful and if Liam Cohen implements the running game to the point where it actually can be the focal point in the offense, it's kind of been said the past couple of years, we need to establish the run. We need to get the run game going. It hasn't happened. But if it does, Baker can kind of maybe take a step back and conduct the offense in more of a game manager kind of fashion to just be efficient and not rely on those big plays that at times they were there last year with like Trey Palmer missing a few, Mike Evans dropped a couple. If the run game can be more balanced, I think the offense doesn't need to rely on Baker as much.
Yeah, no, I agree. And a big part of that running game is Tristan Wirfs, and Rev Fish has this question for us, and also a $4.99 super chat. Thanks so much, Tristan, out there again today as a hold in. Who's reporting for camp, so it didn't get fined. but does not participate out there. We know a deal will be done with Wirfs, and he's there. What's the holdup? Also, do you think either free agent guards we signed are in danger of not making the team? Second part first, I don't think that that's the case. We've seen Ben Bredesen line up as the starting left guard and also Sua Opeta. I think it's down to those two guys initially. Elijah Klein will get an opportunity in camp, I think, once the pads come on. But this is a position right now, I hate to say it, but offensive line, it's just kind of a placeholder right now because this is flag football time, right? You don't really have a true feeling about who has the physicality in pass protection, who can move the line of scrimmage in the run game, et cetera, until those pads come on. So right now it's just kind of, smoke and mirrors, a little bit of window dressing with the offensive line. But I do believe Ben Bredesen and Sua Opeta, both of them make the team. I think Opeta might be penciled in as the starter, and Ben Bredesen also has the ability to play center, although we have not seen him be one of those centers. I think they're focusing right now on him possibly being a left guard, but he does have the ability to play center, much like Nick Leverett had as that kind of backup center. So he does have that ability to swing from the pivot spot, also to play guard as well. And then in terms of Wirfs, it's just looking at everything from the guaranteed money, the length of the deal. We have Mike Greenberg on the podcast last week, and he just kind of talked about that at length. So maybe go back and listen to that podcast, Redfish. But it's just how much guaranteed money, what's the structure of it, because the Penei Sewell deal kind of blew the negotiations up a little bit, because they were kind of striking a deal close to the Laramie Tunsil deal that the Houston left tackle got. And that was at $25 million per year. And now all of a sudden they really raised the stakes and got up to $28 million per year with Penei Sewell, who was the right tackle for the Lions.
Yeah, the worst thing that happened to the Bucs, and they've had a great offseason, but the worst thing that happened to them was the Sewell deal because it seemed like everyone was kind of ready to go, and then the Sewell deal happened. Not that the deal was going to get done, months ago or whatever, but there was a plan in place, and then as soon as someone gets a new contract, you saw it when Deshaun Watson got his ridiculously dumb contract. That pushed the yard marker even further back for quarterbacks, and then same goes for offensive tackle, same goes for wide receiver. The Bucs just did it with Antoine Winfield Jr. As soon as there's a new market setter, I should say, it completely changes the game for anyone else in negotiations. That's why you see it's it's like the Office meme when they got the OK Corral going and they're staring at each other, because it's like, well, if you have three wide receivers that are all free agents, they're waiting for someone to make the first move so that they can say, oh, that person got paid. Give me literally $1 more. I don't care. I want to be the highest paid person. So that hurt the Bucs a little bit, but as we've seen before, they'll be able to navigate through it all.
Yep. And if you're looking for someone to help you navigate your health, well, let me tell you, Chris Lugo is that person with Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Are you tired of feeling like just another number in the waiting room? Bay Area Modern Medical Center in Tampa believes that you deserve personalized care that puts your health and well-being first. Christopher Lugo has got over 24 years of medical expertise as a primary care provider. He's dedicated to your overall health, but that's not all. Christopher also specializes in weight loss, anti-aging, and hormone replacement therapy, including testosterone treatment. So men, listen up. Testosterone treatments, like the kind that I use, they can be affordable. Don't let age slow you down. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. You lose your testosterone as you age over time. It's a natural process. And when you have the opportunity to get some testosterone treatment, trust me, everything amps up, including your energy. So reclaim your vitality and get back to feeling great. Turn back the clock with the consultation at Bay Area Modern Medical Center. I cannot recommend Bay Area Modern Medical Center and Christopher Lugo enough. Here's the difference too. Christopher practices concierge medicine. That means no more waiting rooms, no more rushing through appointments. Imagine you have a 10:30 appointment and you get seen right at 10:30. You don't go from waiting room to waiting room to waiting room. And imagine the doctor who's going to go over your extensive labs and take the time to explain them to you, discuss your diet and exercise plan, and provide a personalized vitamin and supplement recommendation to optimize your health. That's what you're going to get at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, and also including same-day appointments that are available for your convenience. So get ready to experience healthcare that revolves around you. Book your appointment today. Again, I'm a patient at Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Visit them online at Bay Area Modern Medical Center. That's BAMMC.com, BAMMC.com, or give them a call at 844-789-2266. Bay Area Modern Medical Center, where your health is the top priority.
And while it's been a lot of fun doing this show, the fun's not done, because we're going to recap all of day 3 of Bucs mini camp on tomorrow's show at 4:00 Eastern. We'll see what highlight plays are made. Don't know who we're talking to yet, but imagine we'll have a couple of Bucs players to have conversations with, and we'll get another full breakdown on the highlight moments from day 3 of Bucs minicamp. And then Monday's show, just a heads up for everybody, shout out Yaya Diaby once again. We're doing the Bucs minicamp winners and losers. There's been some people that have stood out. Other people have not made the best showing, but it is mini camp, not training camp. Just if you're going to struggle, might as well be now versus when the pants do come on. But yeah, that's going to be Monday's show, so everybody can put that in their calendars for the upcoming episodes. But another good practice. I mean, that Rakim Jarrett play was one that I think really stood out to me. Yes, he beat Bryce Hall. And Bryce Hall lost to Jalen McMillan a couple of weeks ago in OTAs as well. So I know we kind of already talked about it, but it's helping Zion McCollum's case. Yeah. Rakim Jarrett, though, was a guy that I've even said I'm not the highest on the way that the Bucs are, but then you see him play like he did today, and just a beautiful deep ball, which I know I said before, Baker's not the best at it, but I mean, that was an absolute dime from Baker Mayfield. And Payne Durham, talked about tight ends in the red zone. Payne Durham also had a touchdown in red zone. Some
separation, too. Yeah, he looked good, getting away from coverage. And Sterling Shepard had a chance to make a big play today.
He did.
Baker Mayfield put it right on the money, right over the middle, probably a deep 30-yard shot, and just dropped it. So we're going to give him a little bit of a pass. But Shepard was a guy that Baker Mayfield really helped recruit, Matt.
Yes, he did. I mean, we obviously heard Sterling Shepard's side of it of, Baker reached out to him. How are you feeling? Do you have some juice left in the tank? And it's funny because Shepard was like, yeah, I did leg day the day before flying to Tampa. Baker tried to downplay how much he was involved in, his conversations with Sterling Shepard. Like, he didn't go to the Bucs and say, hey, sign Sterling Shepard. But he said, hey, like, if you're good, like, let your agent know, because the Bucs may be reaching out. And if he wants to downplay his recruitment, because he's already the quarterback, now he's a recruiter. Yeah. If he wants to downplay that side of it, fine, I get it. But I think there's a bigger picture to this and they gave him the big contract, so it makes sense. But the Bucs are putting a lot of trust and faith in Baker Mayfield. You see around the league with star quarterbacks, you want your quarterback's input on personnel guys, especially on offense, and more specifically wide receiver. And obviously it makes sense with the history of Baker and Sterling Shepard, but I hope this is a sign of things to come. Rick Stroud made a great point today that the Bucs obviously did this with Tom Brady, and now they're taking those steps with Baker Mayfield. Now, obviously, they already got a lot of guys under contract, but you want to be on the same page with your quarterback. You want to make him happy. And I like that the Bucs are involving Baker, even though this one was kind of like right in his wheelhouse. Right. I hope we see that for the future, because Baker's getting a lot of money. You want to prepare him as much as you possibly can. So I think it's great that Baker has some more input with, who's coming and going on offense.
Here's what Baker Mayfield had to say about Sterling Shepard coming to Tampa Bay.
Just talk about getting your OU teammate here and how that's been the last couple of days.
It's been great. Obviously losing DT, I'm not going to speak on that, but just guys being down. Had a couple guys just some little muscle injuries here and there. So down on receivers, needed some guys to come in and step up. He's a veteran guy that's going into year 9. Had some injuries in the past, but he's looking for a fresh start. Obviously, I can relate to that part. Obviously, our scouting department knows everybody that's out there. It's just more so making sure he's coming here for a tryout, and he handled the rest. And I think just in these last 2 days, him picking up his offense pretty quickly. And obviously, it's always a work in progress, but it's great to have him here. He's a guy that's always got a smile on his face, works his tail off, and just he brings a little juice. When it comes to the mental side of things, he gets fired up. So it's good to have him back. One of the longtime friends that good to have him back.
Yeah, and if you're looking for some financial advice, folks, there's one place to turn, and that is our friends over at Immuni Financial.
At Immuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track, so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Immuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Managing your family's wealth means more to Immuni Financial than simply planning and allocating your assets. It means legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, and insurance services. To over 40 years of experience, let Immuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead all across the country, not just here in the Tampa Bay area, not just in Florida. They can help you anywhere around the country. Give Immuni Financial a call, 1-800-868-6864. I do a lot of business with Immuni. They got most of my financial assets in their portfolios. Couldn't recommend them enough. Visit Immuni.com.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you guys aren't already doing so, please follow us on our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report. We got tons of video up from practice today. Obviously, you can find all of our articles on pewterreport.com, and we tweet them out all the time. And please, if you're not already doing so, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. We have tons and tons of content on that outside of just the podcast that we do 4 times a week. Various Pewter Pulses. We've been putting up live looks from OTAs and now minicamp or from the past 2 days. A lot of different content over on our YouTube channel and more to come. So please subscribe. Help us get those subscriber numbers up. And leave a comment on this video as well. We love when you guys do that, and we really appreciate it. And we appreciate all of you, the Pewter people. So we're going to do this all again tomorrow at 4 p.m. So until then, for Adam Slavon, for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you on Thursday for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
Out.